Hi, this is Spirit Soul Sense, information for your soul, also a place for healing, positivity, and fun. And my name is Sharice, and I really wanted to talk about Greenleaf because season 4 is coming out. So I want to do a summary on season 1 through 3 of each of the characters. And I'm gonna start with Grace because I think she's supposed to be like the mainest character. Maybe. I mean, we were introduced to her first, but I think everyone in the family sort of has their place and has an important role to play in the whole family dynamics and the way the show is going. I think it's just absolutely brilliant. So Grace comes in season 1 after having been away for 20 years. She has this biracial daughter and she is not Christian anymore, which makes a lot of sense after you know her history. But in the beginning, everything is just so confusing and you're trying to figure out why this girl who was a preacher for so long and was like lauded in the community went away for 20 years and then came back after her sister's suicide for the funeral. And her mother seems to have this special disdain for her. Oh my gosh, that lady who plays Lady May, she's so good. She's like, ugh, stick it to you. Do not come in here to sow discord. Oh, it was so, oh my gosh, it's like so good. It's so good. Grace decides that instead of going back to wherever she came from, she was going to stay for the purpose of avenging her sister. And in the beginning, I felt like as a viewer, I was very unsure if her uncle Mac really abused her sister. It almost felt like we weren't supposed to know. And I was like, did he really do it? Or does she just have a vendetta against this guy? But it came out that, I mean, Mac really did abuse her sister, sexually abuse her, attempted to rape Grace, and has a host of young girls in the community that he has raped. And he has a lot of money and influence and power. He has been able to pay these families off instead of having to take responsibility for his actions, which is so interesting. We get to see Grace's relationship with him and how like tense it is. It was just crazy. I think a lot of families have relationships like that. So throughout the seasons, we get to see Grace and her relationship with Mac, and that turns out to end in his death because I think when she did that, I was like, Grace, you are acting real crazy. You are not acting Christ-like, because I don't expect her to do nothing, but I also don't expect her to stalk him, to try to run away any adult people who he's encountering, and then she took a bat to his car. I mean, she was like, I get the passion that she had. You raped my sister, you almost raped me, you've been doing it to other girls, but this energy that she was coming with was like pure hatred. And I can understand that. But if you are the pastor of a church, if you're supposed to be living this Christ-like life, and I know she probably doesn't identify as Christian anymore because she doesn't believe a lot of the things that are in the Bible, which we see in like one of the first episodes of season 1, where she is like trying. She thinks the purpose of being here on earth is, to just keep trying. And I thought it was beautiful. I loved it. But I can only imagine that other folks who were Christian were on Lady May's side saying, "Hey, don't say anything about Jesus Christ. That's what's wrong with it." So we have Grace's relationship with Mac ending in his death. Her having to deal with the aftermath of that. Is that what she wanted? She's feeling guilty for killing someone, a family member, all of the drama that it stoked up in her family. And it was really interesting. Everything that was happening in the show, I thought was so realistic until it came to this death. And I'm like, I do know about murder suicides, and like I actually know the people who've done this and know in families that this stuff has happened. So it's like it's not really too far fetched. I think everything together, this is like a $1 million church, mega church. Grace is the pastor of the church. I think all the details together didn't sound like they would fit in real life, but anything is possible, especially because we're humans. Okay. So Grace and her ex-boyfriend Noah also have moments in the seasons. I don't think he's in season 3 a lot, but in the first couple seasons, we see him and her. After she came back, she finally explained to him why she left in the first place. And I can only imagine, because Grace is in her 40s now. I think she's older than Jacob. And having left 20 years ago, now you're back. Everything is happening. Being around your family, any family will bring back memories. And so now being around this guy who works for her family and is around all the time, I think it's natural for her to think about what could have been. The only problem is he's engaged to another woman. Okay? Grace, if you have this old flame and now he's engaged to another woman, this is not your opportunity to say, what if? Shouldn't we try, explore, and then to sleep with him? I could believe it. I mean, I was stunned. I think I was getting to know the character Grace even more by the things that she does. Some of them make no sense. I mean, it makes total sense. By the same time, you're like, aren't you like super wise, woman? Don't you like have your stuff together that you wouldn't like let your flesh take control of you? I don't know. I was thinking, oh, Grace and I, we probably have a lot in common, but I wouldn't be doing that at 40 some years old. Like, that's stuff you do in your early 20s when you do not know any better. Not when you like have a teenage daughter. And I thought it was so messy. I know that dynamic is very realistic. People go through cheating is very common. I'll talk about her brother Jacob in another video about his cheating. But her and Noah, I just thought that was very interesting. Noah's fiance, who ends up finding out that they slept together, I thought her response was great. I thought her intuition was great, and I feel like it was very realistic. Like I could totally see that happening. They have history. You're feeling like they're acting strange around each other. Then you go and talk to Grace, and she's acting strange as if something happened. You go and talk to your man, and you know him. You know when he's lying. So of course she would have found out. I personally don't see one instance of cheating as a reason to leave a relationship. So I felt pretty okay when she decided to take a break, and then she came back and said, this was too much for us to give away. I would have completely understood if she left though, because if your standards are strict and I'm not going to allow myself to be disrespected by somebody, then I get it. The last major relationship I want to talk about with Grace is her and Darius. I think that's her boyfriend in season 3. And Darius seems to be not the opposite of her, but I don't see them as having much in common. I'm not Christian anymore, but I still believe a lot of the tenets in the Bible. I think they're great guidelines to live your life by. And one of them is that you shouldn't be unequally yoked with someone. And I don't take that to mean that both of them have to be Christian, even though that's really what's happening in this case. But if you don't have certain values in common with someone, then what are you doing? Why do you think it's going to work? And I almost feel like Grace isn't looking far ahead. She's just sort of like living in this moment where she's not thinking about how it's going to affect her daughter and how it's going to affect her later on down. Darius does not want to go to church, and Grace is a pastor of a church. Tell me how that works. And then she was fooling around with the idea of leading her own church and him being, what do they call it, first husband? I'm just like, girl, he doesn't go to church. He's not Christian. He wants nothing to do with that. Are you going to try to change him? Is that like your goal? Is her goal like to find men who she can like mold and change and support? It's just all really interesting. kind of like what she did with the black police officer who killed someone who was black, and like convinced him to come to church, and you know, went behind her father's back and supported him. Oh, it was so messy. It was so messy. And Grace, I feel like, is just, the longer you get to know her, the more you're like, girl, you have a lot of things you need to work on and you need to go see a therapist. But I love Greenleaf, and I think she's a central part of the show. And I cannot wait for season 4 to start. If you want to hear more about some of the other characters in Greenleaf, then check out my other videos. Thank you for watching.